Hi again, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my space. Thank you for the love so far. It's been very encouraging. All right, so today I'll be talking about the cons of living in Malta. I mean, as amazing as Malta might sound or might appear, there are a few negatives, here and there. At the end of the day, that's life. Like, there's no perfect place. Like, everywhere would always have its downside. So yeah. So before I continue, please subscribe, like, and share the video. Thank you. So number one con that I'll be talking about would be the fact that Malta can be dirty. I mean, and that's largely because of the way the waste disposal system works here. So for every apartment or house, you have to take out your trash on specific days, and of course drop it in a bag, and different colors of bag. Drop it on the pavement at a particular time, for them to pick it up. So you can imagine in a situation whereby people do not bring out their bags at the right time or bring out the wrong bags. Those bags will be left there till the next day when the color of that bag is supposed to be collected. I don't know if that makes sense. So for example, a black bag should be brought out on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So if you bring out a black bag on a Tuesday, that black bag will be there till Thursday. So you can imagine a very busy area, a very populated area, where in a particular building there might be 20 different apartments there. So you imagine 20 bags on the pavement, and during summer, with the heat and all, bags just being on the pavement, and sometimes there are stray cats that will just come, tear it open, and everything will spill over. The street starts smelling, and a whole lot, There are some areas that are very, very neat. Oh, some areas they do not joke with. In fact, if you go to some areas, you would not even think, you would not see anything at all on the pavement, Everywhere is neat. And also, we have situations whereby people bring out their dogs and they do not really clean up after their dog, even though that's the law, So yeah, it could be dirty at times. At the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about it, and to just do our own bit by keeping everywhere clean and bringing out our trash as early as possible. So that's number one con. Secondly, would be the standard of education can be better. Let me just put it that way. It can be better. And by education, I'm using state schools as a yardstick here. I find their syllabus and their standard lower than a few countries, In fact, as low as 1 year behind or even 2 years behind in some cases. And even compared to other schools, like other category of schools, which is private and church schools. And by low, I mean, for instance, a child in year 5 in a government school would be using books that a child in year 4 in a private school uses. I really feel it's not fair for the children because they write the same exams at the end of primary school, at the end of secondary school, And even this syllabus, sometimes they do not even cover everything. Like, they do not cover the whole of this already low syllabus that they have. The truth of the matter is that there are a lot of students that I have seen that went to government schools or that attended government schools and are doing excellently well for themselves. Like, they are so bright and brilliant, So do not get me wrong. I mean, this is based on an overview, and like you would even see in surveys and, on the news and all. I do not really find the education in state schools very holistic, So it could be better. They are very good ones. So that's the thing with state schools. So you have to go to school, attend. I will do another video about schooling in Malta. So you have to actually attend a school in the area where you live. So some people would actually choose to live in a particular area just so that their kids can go to the school there and get very, very excellent education. Again, the fact that a child is in a government school does not mean the child will do better than one who is in a private school. You know how it works. I mean, but the parents, the school, the child also has to put in the work. But really for state schools, they have to go the extra mile. They have to actually go the extra mile to be able to see the desired results, and because the children would sit for these exams, like I said. So you find most people enrolling their children for extra lessons and stuff like that, just so that they can catch up. And even me, for me, sometimes what I do is during the long vacation, because like I mentioned before, we have 3 months, a whole 3 months holiday. So in order for the kids not to be too idle when they return from summer school, like I have like different practice questions, that I'll just download online, for their age group and all, just for them to practice in different subjects, so that they keep themselves abreast. Basically, you just have to put in the work, put in extra work in order for you to be able to meet up. So thirdly, construction can be a pain. Like everywhere you would see, when you just look up, there's I'm sure you would find at least one crane. And even in some cases, you'll find like 10 cranes. Like, it can be terrible. Like, I'm not complaining, because if they do not build, where will people stay? Because the demand is high, the influx of people people are coming in every day. So they need to build. But so of course, with construction comes dust, comes noise. But then there are certain times that you cannot, do any kind of construction work. So that's fair, but just bear it in mind. You might be living in an area where opposite you there's a construction going on. As that one is finishing, and you think, okay, finally I have some sanity, the one beside you would start renovating or constructing again. So that's just how it works in Malta, right? That brings me to the next point. Like, I don't know, but I find Malta a little bit ugly. I don't know, with the construction and everything they do, you would expect, to see like modern buildings, sophisticated buildings and all, but no way. Like, I don't know, they look kind of ugly. Jeez. I remember when the very first day I arrived in Malta, like while driving down, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm sure these are the villages. I would get to the town, the proper town, and I would see. Maybe because I was coming from Dubai, so I was expecting to see all these very, big buildings and all, but I think they like it modest here. Malta is modest, we're very conservative, so I guess they like their buildings really modest. But then that's not even the thing. Like, you'll see some, in some areas, you'll see like set of buildings, like maybe like a three-story building, and then all of a sudden you'll see like a 7-story building, and then the next will be a 2-story building. It won't, like, it doesn't look good at all. Like, to the eyes, I do not know how they get to. Sometimes when I see these things, I'll be like, how did they approve these, But then that's just how it is here in Malta. There are some areas, again, all this, they're just relative, depending on where you live. There's like, where in the area where I live, every building there cannot exceed a particular height. So you can build whatever you want, but it cannot exceed, for example, 2-story buildings, or three stories. So, and in fact, in some other areas, you would actually find that the houses actually look the same, So I guess it all depends on the local government and, the community there, right? So, yeah, so talking about areas still, I'm talking about the narrow roads in Malta. Oh my God, the roads are very narrow, really narrow. Like, I drive now, but there are some areas that I still cannot imagine myself like passing. Like, it's so narrow, and most of these routes, the buses actually go on these routes as well. So you can imagine a very narrow road with bends. Imagine a vehicle getting stuck in for example, an accident, or there's just one obstruction on the road. So every other person just gets stuck, So the roads are really, really narrow, and obviously it's a small island, so they just have to make do with what they have, I guess, And talking about, like, so you can imagine on the road, like, everyone just gets stuck, and maybe there's a bus there, Which brings me to my next point. Like, buses are not reliable. As good as it sounds, like, okay, as nice as these buses might appear, they're actually not reliable, especially busy routes or during rush hour in the morning or in the evening, The bus might actually even come, but it will just pass you by because it's filled up. Or the bus might just come very late because it's held up in traffic, So the buses might not be reliable. So what I do is that when I have to go on the bus, if it will take me 1 hour, I'll just add an extra 30 minutes or 1 hour, like, just to be able to meet up and avoid disappointment. So the buses are not particularly reliable. And sometimes, in order for the bus not to pass you by, if there's a terminal close by, I'll just, join the bus on the other route to the terminal and then now come with the bus. Yeah, I remember I used to do that in my former working place. So another thing is when you arrive into Malta, it might be a little bit difficult settling down because nothing is really handed over to you, like to be able to settle down. For example, your ID cards, renting a place, buying stuff, getting, for example, if you have children, getting them in, enrolling them into school, everything just seems to be, will I say, scattered. Like you have to really source for information. You have to keep asking questions, keep asking people around. And even in some cases, people who even live here already might not really even know. I mean, I remember when we moved, like for everything, like there was just a lot of back and forth, before we were able to eventually find our way through. Right. So I think that's just, it's not, I mean, things are really improving now compared to when we arrived 5 years ago. I remember even going to Identity Malta to get our ID cards. Oh my God, I'm sure we spent almost 4 hours there on that day, or even more. Like, it was very rowdy, it was so disorganized. People had to come back the next day and all. In fact, at some point, there was a day I even spent, like, I'm sure I spent the whole day there. But over time, things have gotten better. Like, the offices even look so good now because they're now in a new building. Everything seems very organized and, recently, I've not had to spend more than 30 minutes to 1 hour at the offices. So, I mean, that's really good. So, things change every day. At the end of the day, everything is not supposed to be straightforward. In life, there would always be bends and all. So, yeah. I would say the size of the country, as much as the size of the country could be an advantage, it could be a disadvantage as well because obviously it's small. So, there are limited things to do, especially if you are one who likes to go out, who likes to really explore. There are quite a few, but like I said, Malta is small. You can go from the north to the south in 1 hour. So you keep pretty much get bored and get tired of things easily. I mean, for me personally, it's not a problem at all because I mean, if I'm tired, I could easily just go on the next flight to another country, and come back to my small, quiet country. But, just to bear that in mind, that could be a problem for some people. Yes, so I think that will be all. Thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe, like, and share the video. See you in my next video. Bye.